Alright, so earlier today I was making the video on Smollett. Actually, I just finished that up a few minutes ago. Please watch that video and leave your comments. I would like to see what people think about how I'm kind of covering things. This is a story that I find follows straight out of that. This is U.S. hate crimes spiked around 2018 midterms, report says. Hate crimes are something that we've just seen essentially more or less come out as false with the Smollett story. I'm no longer the devil's advocate for that. I'm kind of following along with the way the story has moved. Here is the statistics on hate crimes for the years. Hate crime reporting is way up. However, there doesn't seem to be any correlation with that overall. Excuse me. And in going through this, where they get their story from is this. The Anti-Defamation League, January 2019, Murder and Extremism in the U.S. 2018. Now, I've been reading through this, and I found it very interesting to see I would just like to refer to it as a complete mischaracterization of the statistics and of the facts of the killings. As you can see across here, I've got several tabs. We're going to kind of work through those fairly quickly because I do want to get through this. What it is murder and extremism. They list where is it at here? Here are the 5 most deadly years of domestic extremism in the U.S. 1970, 2018, Oklahoma City bombing, Orlando nightclub shooting, San Bernardino, Fort Hood. These are the ones they're going with. Here are kind of the rates for those. And shooting sprees are largely responsible for higher death tolls in recent years. Shooting sprees, the perpetrators. All right, so domestic extremist-related killings in the U.S. by perpetrator affiliation, white supremacy, anti-government, incel, domestic Islamist terrorism. They are really, really focused on this idea. White supremacy. You see white supremacy here, 50 deaths. You know how many people died in 2018? 17,000 were killed in homicides. Of those, they can tie 50 loosely to white supremacy or anti-government extremism. And this is related deaths. 318 total deaths between 2009 and 2018. 3 out of 4. Now, we're going to go back up to this number here that they gave us earlier. 95, 216, all this. They are laying most of these onto white supremacy and anti-government extremism. 2009, 2018. We'll slide right back up to those again, those numbers. Fort Hood shooting, 13 deaths. That would be a Muslim extremist. Orlando nightclub, Muslim extremists, and these are the ones which fall within their criteria. Parkland High School shooting. This is just a out and out crazy homicidal person who got a gun, who was completely mentally unstable the whole time, seemingly hated everyone. Anti-black, anti-Muslim, anti-white, anti-everything. Straight up crazy person, murderer. This is anti-government extremism. This was in response to Ruby Ridge, these deaths. You see a continuing push that white supremacy, 78% of these 50 deaths, of 17,000 deaths, are white supremacists, were killed over white supremacy. So out of 17,250 deaths, 50 of those, possibly 78% of that 50, can be linked to white supremacy. 17,200 are not linked to white supremacy. It baffles the mind that this is what they're going with. 2009 to 2018, 313 deaths. All right, I'm going to do some real quick math. 313. We're going to do the actual math. 76. Sorry. Always forget the point. So 238 deaths in 9 years can be related to some type of white supremacy. In 9 years, let's just assume that that's the only amount of people killed. That is a tiny fraction of all deaths can be related to white supremacy. Right-wing extremism. Again, 2009 to 2008, 73% of 427 total deaths. Right-wing. You see Islamist extremism creeping up in this one. However, this is 12 incidents in 9 years can be linked to Islamic extremism, and I wonder how many they're going to say can be linked to right-wing extremism. Over the course, is that 60, almost 70 years? No, 50 years, I'm sorry. In 50 years, you get 59 incidents. 44 from the left. You see they've pulled around here. And now they're growing again. These are shrinking, these are growing. It is so difficult to take such a insignificant number of incidents and pull them together. Again, possibly 237, and if you read through these murders, you'll learn pretty quick that a lot of these have nothing to do with right-wing extremism. These are just murderers. Here are the number of deaths in 2017 by state: California, Texas, Florida. All these murders committed in the year. And you can find possibly 50 that can be set to white extremism. It seems so insane to me that that is the push for the ADL, saying that this is the problem. If it was 5,000 or 10,000, it would be the problem. But it seems to be it is so low, so insignificant that it doesn't matter. Here is the homicide rate by population by year. The African American black rate is right up here holding, you see it holding true about 20, dropping and rising kind of as we go. You see the white non-Hispanic group right here at the bottom will peak in 2001 and then slides right across. The mixed, which is all races, and the Hispanic non-white right here. You see this 4 times jump. You do not have a significant push in extremism. What we have in the U.S. is a uniquely culture. Unfortunately, it is a culture-based thing. It needs to be discussed, figured out, understood why this is the group for homicides. Compared to the national average, the homicide rate was 54% lower for whites, 14% lower for Hispanics, and 267% higher for blacks. Put another way, the homicide rate among Africans and Americans is nearly quadruple that of the national average. Last year, President Obama highlighted the importance of this issue. The single greatest cause of death for young black men between the ages of 18 and 35 is homicide. And that is crazy. I'm going to agree with that. That is crazy. That is... Actually, it's worse than that. According to the CDC, homicide is the number one cause of death for African Americans in all age groups from 15 to 34. 15 to 19, 20 to 24, 24 to 5. This is the issue. If you take the rate here, the white rate, the just the standard rate for whites, you see that it falls in line with European countries, with Asian countries, with what you would expect. When you move to the Hispanic rate, they still fall in line. When you slide down to the rate at which blacks do, this is where you end up at, down here, in the highest rates in most of the world. I mean, of course, El Salvador and some of these other countries where they're in the middle of what essentially amounts to civil wars or, spiraling crime rates. But this is where you got to go. You've got to get down here, Colombia, Guatemala, Central African Republic. That's just where you are. And this needs to be the topic of discussion right here. Not white supremacy, not extremism, just the everyday the everyday killings that are just going on. The Orlando nightclub shooting, mass shooting. This was, the way the thing made it sound, this was a huge ordeal. This is an extremist, a Islamic State trustee, Oklahoma City bombing. This is a anti-government move. They want to chain this to the right. This is someone who was basically wanted the government to end. This is not a right-left thing. This is someone who wants the government to stop. They don't want the government to have any power over them. They want it over. Basically anarchy. Fort Hood, another one. This is a man who is upset over the bombings in the Middle East, which is still awful. They didn't charge him with terrorism strictly because the Pentagon argued that charging Hassan with terrorism was not possible within the military justice system, and that such an action could harm military's prosecutors' ability to sustain a guilty verdict against Hassan. Wasn't charged with that. He was radicalized over several years, started shooting. The military didn't charge him with terrorism because it's not within the military court's ability to do that, so they just charged him straight up murder. That's it. What they did. Stoneman Douglas High School. This guy here had every problem. This is what you would consider the total failure of the state on its own hands. This guy was able to buy weapons. He's held back, jumped through different schools. Just terrible. But anyway, if you read the murder and extremism thing from the ADL, you'll notice right off the bat it's extremely skewed. They have to push this very tiny, and that's something you see a lot. This tiny group of people, a few thousand, maybe 30,000 total in the U.S., get all the attention. And that is to the detriment of every other statistic, fact, everything else you will find. This is the problem. We have got to figure out a way and actually have honest conversations about this without places like the ADL coming in and saying, hey, the 17,000 deaths, or what would that be? Let's just look. Let's just say 17,000 was the average, times 9. 153,000 deaths in the U.S. Well, 427 of them are the real problem. No. Real problem is 17,000, and we need to figure out a way to stop it. Bring it down. Thank you. Leave your comments below. Have a great day.